Welcome. r/Talesfromtechsupport. I blew up my computer. There was a young, motivated, and inexperienced computer engineer working at a small company that built inspection machines for a niche market. These inspection machines consisted of Wintel computers along with some specialized hardware for interfacing with the inspection sensors and general control, enclosed in a nice air-conditioned cabinet for all the electrical bits. The software was developed in-house as well, and ran on top of Windows. If you ever worked in manufacturing before, you've probably run across this kind of setup before. Now, this company built the computers in-house from off-the-shelf parts. Intel CPUs, Samsung SSDs, Crucial RAM, Supermicro Modbus, you get the drift. Each developer got an exact copy of the currently shipping hardware and machine components, so it would be easy to develop and test locally. The hardware was always on the mid to high end, so this worked out well for everyone. There was a solid professional that handled the company's needs, obviously, and did the purchasing and inventory for the Wintel components. The antagonist of our story, mentioned above, was a fresh college graduate with a degree in computer engineering with a focus on embedded systems. So when a small project came up for a small embedded peripheral to this peripheral, the CPE volunteered to take it, and management approved. Onto the story. Characters. CPE, smart, yet inexperienced engineer. Antagonist. Information technologist of the house support. 30 million of his name, king of the servers, the rightful admin of all PCs and protector of the databases, king of Active Directory and cal of the network. Scene. Its office. Knock knock. It looks up to see CPE standing meekishly in the doorway, looking as guilty as a young puppy who peed on the carpet after house training. CPE, I need to pull a new motherboard, keyboard, and USB hub from stock. I'm not sure if I'm going to need more components. Okay, we have the parts in stock, but what's this about? Usually stock pulls are for complete machines. Is there something wrong with a machine on the shop floor? CPE, nothing wrong with production as far as I know. I just, well, it's... The CPE is staring at his shoes and moving in a clearly uncomfortable fashion. Something is clearly wrong and all evidence points to CPE as the guilty party. Sit down and tell me what happened. CPE, I blew up my computer. Sniff. What? CPE, tears welling up. I blew up my computer. I didn't mean to. I was working on the new embedded peripheral prototype and go on. CPE, I was rearranging the hardware on my desk when I heard this loud pop. I looked up at my monitors and they were all black. I heard all the fans running at 100% and there was smoke pouring out of my keyboard and computer case. CPE, I cut power to everything. The embedded peripheral, PC, monitors, everything in my cubicle. I tried bringing my PC back up, but nothing happened. When I pressed the power button, I opened up the side of the case and there was black charring around the USB ports on the motherboard. So what happened? CPE, I think I put 24V on the 5V USB rail by accident. CPE. Sniff. How? CPE, I left some wires hanging loose off the prototype and must have bumped them. I had a USB adapter that I was using to communicate with the prototype and the loose wires touched something they shouldn't have. Sniff. The main power supply on the prototype is 24V and one of the loose wires was on the 24V supply. It touched the 5V USB rail on the USB adapter. CPE, am I going to get fired? How much equipment, in dollars, do you think you destroyed? CPE, answer honestly. CPE, $500. Sniff grabs a tissue from the box on its desk. $500. Okay. Assuming everything company owned in your cubicle got fried, that's probably, what? $3 grand worth of equipment, right? CPE, gasp, starts sobbing. Wait, I haven't finished. CPE, looks up in horror. Have you ever brought an embedded control system to market before? CPE, slowly shakes head no. This was a prototype you were working on. CPE, nods yes. Something went wrong and the magic white smoke came out. CPE, nods yes. Remind me again, what went wrong? CPE, I sniff left some sniff power wires loose, and they sniff touched the adapter. I see. You left some wires loose, they got bumped, and some electronics got destroyed. CPE, sniff yes sniff. Grab another tissue. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to pull the components to another complete system for you from stock. You're going to go back to your cubicle and rebuild your PC. I know you can handle this, since you built your PC on your first day here. You're going to return all of the old components to me for proper disposal. Keep the original SSD, if it still works. No point in reinstalling the OS, since the replacement hardware is identical and the SSD probably survived. You're probably going to be back up and running in an hour. CPE, puzzled look. What did you learn? CPE, even more puzzled look. It's not a trick question. What did you learn? CPE, never leave wires flying in the breeze. Bingo 5, 10, 20 years from now, you will never make this mistake again. This company just spent, at most, $3 grand training you. I don't know what you make salary wise, but my guess is the equipment you destroyed, worst case, is the equivalent of 5 days of what this company spends on you. It probably cost over $20,000 to hire you, considering the recruiter fees, hour time, interview time, and so on. You did something that cost the company a pittance compared to what it took to hire you. Never mind your salary and benefit cost. You obviously know what you did wrong, and you'll never make this mistake again. If the company fired you over this, they'd be spending another $20 grand minimum to replace you. Shit happens. It's happened to me. It's happened to you. It happens to everyone. You're young. You're inexperienced. College should teach you how to learn, and you've learned from this. Now take these parts, rebuild your PC, and let me know if you need anything else. CPE, fab, thank you. This isn't the first time I've dealt with destroyed parts and this won't be the last. Just don't leave wires loose again. CPE, absolutely. I grew up on a farm, and we had a spark plug. I'll call it a maintenance station. Had a sandblaster, wire wheel, air blast, etc. and a testing setup. The testing portion was 3 places, where you could screw spark plugs in, attach an alligator clip to the top, hit a button, and see if the plug was working properly. When I was young, my dad would give me a pile of plugs, and have me clean and test them. I quickly learned that, if you move the alligator clip between spark plugs without taking your finger off of the button, it would give you a pretty good zap. Fortunately it only took once for me to learn. I was more than happy to show my little sister the wrong way to do it though. When I was in middle school, I had a remote control miler blimp that you could fill with helium and fly around indoors. It was probably something like 5 to 8 cubic feet in volume and classic blimp shape, vaguely a blunt teardrop. I also had a largish court TV in my room that had a habit of developing a substantial static charge on the front very quickly. One day the blimp was inflated in my room, and the TV was on. I wasn't paying much attention, but remembered after the fact that the blimp had been attracted to the TV, and must have been stuck to it for quite some time. I happened to get near enough to it, and all I remember is a bright flash, and me being thrown bodily across the room, knocking my computer monitor off of my desk. My sister was across the room, and said a huge spark, perhaps 6 inches long, had leapt from the blimp to me. I knocked the blimp away from the TV, turned the TV off, and was careful to always keep the two of them away from each other from then on. I have one. I was the embedded developer, and I worked on the new designs after the hardware guys turned them over to me. I'd been doing this for a while, so I knew how to be careful. But, you knew there was going to be a but on this one new board. I kept popping an op amp. Honestly, I'd be looking at something else, and it would just stop working. I got a stern talking to about how this couldn't go on, etc, etc. So finally I got out the app notes and data sheets for the part and started looking for anomalies. It turns out it's not a good idea to run a 5V op amp on a 9V rail. It'll work for a while. A few days ago I was going to plug a 12V through the IOs on an embedded device prototype I was testing. It is built to support it, but had this general nasty feeling of if I ever burn a card, this is how. About plugging in a secondary power source. As such I asked my colleague for the least important device, clarifying that while I wasn't expecting to burn it, I may very well do so. I plugged in the device to power, connected the secondary power, and opened a shell over serial port to check the values on the IOs. Everything was working. The moment of truth had come. I turned on the secondary power over the input, and the system died instantly. After some checking, a fuse had gone, both on the board and in the power supply, so only the GPIOs were killed. But that shouldn't have happened. There was a current limiting circuit. Something was wrong. After some hours of checking the circuit for errors, a cause was found: a flipped full bridge rectifier to rectify the input. Thanks to having happened to connect the secondary power source +2 on the mismounted rectifier, and vice versa, it had acted as a short, with a voltage drop of 1 volt, so 12V was more than enough to burn a fuse. Turns out several of the prototypes had this issue without anyone knowing. Moral of the story: identify the risks and burn the least important device at hand. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, hit like. If you would like to see more, feel free to subscribe.